Chapter 32. She couldn't very well sob in a stranger's parking lot, so she pulled out and drove to the closest gas station before completely losing her composure. All the plans she had made, everything she dreamed of building, it wouldn't be complete without Fortune in it. Her time with him had shown her that she shouldn't be afraid to speak up for what she wanted. He opened her up to possibilities she never knew existed. He took her out of her comfort zone and made her a better person. Her whole life, she'd been floating, only going where the current took her. She had no goals, no direction. Was it not knowing what she wanted to do with her life, or had she simply been too scared to decide and then have it all go wrong? Fortune had never been afraid to go his own way. For the first time, Imogen had actively dreamed of a specific future and was moving towards something. She had hoped that they would run toward that future together and build something great. Now she didn't know if it was the right move. It had taken her a long time to realize she didn't have to do everything herself. There was nothing wrong with asking for help. If nothing else, her time in the Green Mountains had taught her the power of friendship and having a community to support her and lift her up. She needed that now. She couldn't go back to Joe's. Everyone was waiting, hoping for the good news. She dried her eyes and blew her nose before starting up the engine. There was only one place she could think of to go. Before she knew it, she was pulling down a familiar gravel drive. It was funny how it was only a few weeks ago she had come down this stone bridge for the first time. The view was still spectacular, even more so now that she wasn't concussed. When she reached the large cabin, Gabe walked out of the house to stand on the porch steps, hands in both denim pockets. From this distance, she couldn't see his face or whether he was happy to see her. The last time they spoke, it had been awkward, and she had been leaving. She wasn't sure about her reception. She pulled up and got out, leaning on the hood of the car with arms crossed. "Hey." He just looked at her from under his ball cap, waiting for something. "So, I decided to stay. I made it to the border and turned back." She laughed at herself and took a deep breath. "I'm staying." She stood up from the hood and began to walk slowly up the stairs toward him. "I think it took coming here to realize what I want, what I need to be happy. I've always been searching for something, but I didn't really know what it was. A purpose, a place to call home." She reached him and tentatively put a hand out, waiting. Slowly, he took his hand out of his pocket and accepted it. His hand was warm and slightly calloused from the work he did. He still didn't speak, but she was spurred on by the gesture. "I never expected you. I never expected to be here more than a few weeks or to make friends. I never expected to fall back in love with horses. I never expected that you would become my best friend. I'm in love with you, Gabe." Now Gabe finally smiled and gently caressed her hand. "What do you want?" And she knew what she wanted. Knew it like she knew the sun would rise in the east and that winter would bring snow-filled days curled up by the fire. She knew that there would be hard work and laughter and a lot of new experiences. She grinned. "I want everything." Gabe now used both hands to lift her and spin her around so she was on the step above him. Looking down at her, his blue eyes crinkling with happiness, he whispered, "I'd give you the moon." Then he leaned down, ever so slowly, and kissed her. She threw her arms around him, returning his kiss with gusto. It felt like coming home. He released her gently, arms going around her waist, holding her tightly against him like he'd never let her go again. And he confirmed it, saying, "I never wanted you to stay just for me. It was hell trying not to change your mind. Imogen, I've never met anyone like you." She played with his hair, teasing the base of his neck. "I've never met anyone like you either. Coming to Vermont came with a lot of unexpected surprises. You, Harper and Bailey, Fortune." She trailed off, tucking her face into his chest. If he was surprised at her change of mood, he didn't show it. He just held her close, comforting her. Finally, he spoke. Imogen, what's wrong? She lifted a tear-stained face, and it broke his heart to see it. Fortune's gone. She knew she must look a train wreck. Today had been an emotional roller coaster of epic proportions. But Gabe only laughed. Was her insanity rubbing off on him? What is wrong with you? Why are you laughing? Her anger only made him laugh harder until he had tears rolling down his face. She stepped back, arms akimbo, and regarded him with fire in her eyes. Finally, he stopped. Are you done? Gabe just grabbed her hand and led her down the porch steps to the back of the house where the horses were kept. Gabe, I'm getting really frustrated. This whole quiet man routine is sexy a lot of the time and cute often, but I need answers now. What is going on? He stopped her, spinning her around so her back was to the fence. Imogen, I know where Fortune is. She was shocked. You do? Yes, Bianca called looking for you, and when I told her you had left, I'd still like to talk about that, by the way, she told me she was going to surrender him to the local equine rescue. Joe said something like that, but I went to the rescue and he wasn't there, she cried out. No, Imogen, you don't understand. I would never let Fortune go for adoption. I know how much you love him, and, well, I didn't want to completely let you go. I told her I would take him. She was flabbergasted. He had never seen her so quiet, her mouth hanging open in shock, like a cute fish. Gabe took advantage and continued with his story. I picked him up last night and brought him here. He settled right in, and Rowdy was happy to see him. The best news is, he stayed put and didn't wander off in the night. As if on cue, she felt soft breathing in her ear and a nudge at her shoulder. She turned around to see Fortune standing at the fence. It was impossible. It was amazing. Everything she had ever wanted was right here in this moment. Well, except Cookie, but she was waiting for her next door. Imogen reached out to touch his soft nose, and he pinned his ears. She laughed in delight. Gabe put his hand on her shoulder. Life was perfect. You adopted him for me? He's yours, Imogen. I think Bianca knew it from the beginning, and that's why she was so upset. He chose you. I couldn't let him go to some stranger who didn't know or appreciate his quirks. You're better together. He paused, placing an errant curl behind her ear before cupping the back of her neck. We're better together. All of us. Imogen knew he was right. She was scared for what the future would bring, but not because she didn't know what she wanted. She was scared because for the first time in her life, she knew what she needed to do, and she knew that it would be hard work. She was excited, for the first time in a very long time, for the unknown. She turned to him, and in one swift movement he was holding her aloft, her legs wrapped around his waist. I cannot imagine a better man. Gabe, you've given me all I could ever want. Gabe whispered, You are everything to me. I think I've loved you since the day you came at me from the couch, all wild and fierce. So, what comes next? She smiled mischievously. I know exactly what to do. We build something beautiful together.